Now, everybody knows about the fights over unions in Wisconsin, but there's also another fight going on around the issues. And that's the fight over facts versus propaganda. The protesters understand that one side is distorting things, even interrupting Fox News live shots with chants of Fox lies.
For the most part, they are just at this point wanting to make sure that this bill does not come to the...
Now, the other day, Bill O'Reilly sent a producer to ask a protester in front of News Corp what exactly Fox lies about. And the protester fumbled to answer. So Bill took the opportunity to gloat.
He finds out that they're mad, Bernie, that Fox lies. Okay? Fox lies about what? And nobody can tell him.
Ooh, Bill, I know someone who can tell you. Me. Thank you for teeing that one up. So let's get started. First, listen to Glenn Beck talking about collective bargaining.
In fact, FDR said collective bargaining would destroy us. Yes, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Look it up.
So, of course, we looked it up. Perhaps something Beck should have done before he went on air. Of course, FDR never said anything about collective bargaining destroying us all. In fact, FDR signed laws protecting collective bargaining and often hailed collective bargaining as an important step for labor. Now, he did have some big questions about public unions' right to strike, but that's nowhere near collective bargaining destroying us all, when he was, in fact, massively in favor of it in many contexts. Next, Fox contributors keep saying that Governor Scott Walker campaigned on a platform that included ending collective bargaining for public workers. Just check out the tape.
You have to put Scott Walker in context. He campaigned for a year and a half on a very clear program. Nothing he's doing is new. Everything he's doing was in his platform.
Again, not true. The fact-checking site PolitiFact looked into this and were unable to produce any record of Walker vowing to end collective bargaining. Walker hasn't produced any record of that either. Now, next up, the idea that public workers in Wisconsin are fat cats.
State government employees make over $51,000 a year on average. Compare all of that to the private sector employees, who make about $38,600 a year. What a difference. It used to be if you went to work for the state government, you would make less, but it was worth it because you'd have good benefits, good health care, nice fat pension, that kind of thing. So your salary would be lower. You can see from that full screen we just showed you, that graphic, that's no longer the case.
All right, except that they want to cut their pensions. And the second problem is that the Fox numbers didn't account for workers' education, experience, and other factors. The Economic Policy Institute found that when those things are accounted for, Wisconsin's public employees earn 4.8% less in total compensation per hour than comparable full-time employees in Wisconsin's private sector. So Fox either purposely compared apples and oranges with the intent to deceive and manipulate the passions of their audience, or they just could be ignorant of the facts. Maybe they're just all ignorant. And finally, Mr. O'Reilly, let's come back to you. A couple of nights ago, while talking about Wisconsin, your show rolled video of a violent protest, which, by the way, didn't really happen in Wisconsin. Now, one problem, you made no mention of the actual location, leaving the impression that the Wisconsin protesters were out of control. A little misleading, don't you think? Now, look out for the palm trees in the background here.
How many are professional left-wingers and how many are just regular folks?
It's tough to tell. When you get to the weekends, you get a lot of out-of-towners. A lot of people are bussed in from not just Wisconsin, but a lot of surrounding states. I talked to someone who was from California who's sleeping in the Capitol throughout this process. So you've got a real mixed bag.
Speaking of California, those palm trees seem to be from California and not Wisconsin. O'Reilly several minutes ago in that program had mentioned that protests happened across the country, but it was not mentioned at all within the context of that conversation with reporter Mike Tobin on Wisconsin. It was just labeled union protests with no stated location. Gee, I wonder why they did that. Now look, what's the impression they want to leave you with at the end of the day? There are union thugs in Wisconsin. They are overpaid. They shouldn't have the right to collective bargaining anyway. And Governor Walker is just doing the will of the people. That's what Fox News does. They lead you with misleading information and impression. That is part and parcel of what they do over there. With me now is Eric Bollert, Senior Fellow with Media Matters for America. All right, Eric, that is not all, is it? All right, I want to go to them doing this in other occasions. For example, you saw there They're talking about Wisconsin. They put up the palm trees, etc. Now, you remember Jon Stewart busted them on this, too, on another protest about that Sean Hannity was talking about. Let's watch that for a second.
It seems Sean Hannity used footage of a bigger crowd from a totally different event to make last week's GOP healthcare rally appear more heavily attended.
All right, so what do you think's going on here? Are they just constantly, whoops, making a mistake, wrong video again, or do you think it's on purpose?
And you forgot to mention last week when they inverted the poll results. There was a poll result.
We got that too.
Yeah, strong support for collective bargaining. Everyone else in the press managed to report it correctly. Fox News put up the graphic, and oh my gosh, they inverted the numbers. And since then, they basically ignore any of the polls, like the New York Times poll, that show strong support for the unions and collective bargaining. So yeah, a couple innocent mistakes, but you add it all up. Look, Fox News in the last couple of weeks has been basically an anti-union clearinghouse. That's what they do. This is Fox News as a political operation, not Fox News as a journalistic operation. They can't do the second, but they love to do the first.
Eric, you mentioned the mistakes. It's over and over. We'll give you one more. Mark Foley, you remember the Republican who was going after the young pages, and then when Fox News puts him on, all of a sudden he's a Democrat. Look at that, Democrat from Florida.
Indeed.
Totally not true. Now, what do you think it is? Do you think they're incompetent and they make mistake after mistake after mistake? And all those mistakes happen to be against Democrats? Well, is it coordinated? What is it? I really don't even know if it's coordinated. It just seems like, golly gee willikers, all the mistakes are in favor of Republicans.
It's a dangerous combination of incompetence and bias. So that's the bubble that they live in. So I think when the incompetence comes up, it all flows in one direction. And again, what's interesting about Wisconsin is that Fox News is very angry and bewildered. Why are people chanting Fox News lies in the background? I mean, come on. That's necessary truth-telling. That's what that is. That is an accurate media critique. And what's interesting in Wisconsin, they sort of venture outside of the right-wing bubble, and they realize people are pushing back against their lies, and they're very bewildered by the whole thing.
Right. There's another thing that Fox did. They're saying that the state budget in Wisconsin, they're having shortfalls because of the public union collective bargaining. Now, is that true?
No. I mean, they're tying together the issue of collective bargaining, budget shortfalls. Not true. Just like the other attacks they're doing on collective bargaining. This is just sort of it's sort of beyond Chamber of Commerce talking points. This is just hardcore anti-union talking points. There's no connection between the two.
So now they keep getting all those facts wrong.
Right.
Is it possible that they're just ignorant?
That's a good question.
I mean, I'm just throwing out possibility. I'm trying to help a brother out.
Yeah, no, it's, again, all the mistakes go in one direction. So, come on. I mean, this is what they do. They're here to make the unions as look bad as possible. They're trying to prop up the governor, even though, he has no support really within the rest of the Republican Party. He can't find anyone else to come on board with this really radical agenda of anti-collective bargaining. So they're doing the best they can. If they have to make stuff up, well, they'll make stuff up.
All right, Eric Boland from Media Matters. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. And now, one more thing in Wisconsin. While the standoff continues between Scott Walker and the Wisconsin 14, those are, of course, the state Democrats who left the state, the Republicans in Wisconsin legislature are getting down to work on the most important issue in the state, prank calls. They literally want to make prank calls a state crime. Gee, I wonder why. Curious timing. Now, two state politicians introduced a bill that would slap prank callers with a $10,000 fine if they, quote, intentionally provide a false phone number and convince the person receiving the call that it is Dave Koch on the other line. No, I mean that it comes from someone other than the actual caller. The team that co-authored the bill says it has nothing to do with the Walker prank where David Koch called in and gave him orders. Of course not. No, it's just a wild, wild coincidence. They were getting all these calls, and they said, you know what, maybe this is the right time to act. By the way, doctored videos of conservatives posing as pimps and prostitutes would still be allowed.